Hi everybody, it's Vanessa Gertman from Alpas Casts. Today, I'm going to walk you through the configuration process for IntelliJ to make it work really well to develop your Alpas applications. Luckily, there's not too much we have to do to make this happen. I'm going to start by downloading the software we need, and then there's only a few things that we'll have to configure once we have IntelliJ installed. So let's get started. Okay, so I've gone to the JetBrains website, and they're the makers of IntelliJ, and I'm going to download it from their website. Luckily, Alpas can actually run on the Community Edition, so I'm going to download that, which is free. And this will take just a minute to download, and then we will install it. So the download finished, and I'm just going to go ahead and run this DMG installer. And we'll just follow the instructions, drag it to the Applications folder. Okay, great. So I'm just going to double click on this. And then agree to their privacy policy. I think I missed the first window there, but it usually pops up and asks you if you want to import settings if you have them already, which you would do if you had an earlier version of this installed. But this is your first time installing IntelliJ. You don't need to worry about that. You don't have any saved preferences. So I actually have a project already from the last video where we created our first Alpas app. So I'm going to open that project. I've got that in projects and showing IntelliJ. And IntelliJ is going to try and show you different tips of the day. If you're interested in that, you can do them. I usually turn that off. Oh, and this is a funny thing that happened. So I clicked on this, but it didn't actually change, and that's because there was a window behind it. So right now, IntelliJ is actually importing your Gradle file. I want to move this into the background so I can still use the editor while it's doing that. So I'm going to say background, and then I can uncheck this box and close it. So you can still, it's still loading that Gradle project right now. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is set the project SDK version. We can do that by going to File, Project Structure, and this is what we want to set right here, the project SDK. You want that Java version to be 9, which is the version we installed with SDKman. So that's the one we want to use. If you look, I don't have that in my list right now, so I need to add it. So I'm going to say New, JDK. And as I mentioned earlier, since I used SDKman to install Java, I want to point to that version. And that should be in my home folder. Just show it's a hidden folder. So home/SDKman, and then candidates, Java, and current. I'm going to go ahead and open that. All right, so now I've got Java 9, which is what we wanted. So I'm going to apply that and close this window. So I'm going to go to the Preferences menu. And there's a few things I know I want to do. So I'm going to search for Gradle in here. And IntelliJ and also just JetBrains in general, like their search is really nice in the Preferences panel. I end up using this a lot. It's really handy. So I'm going to look for Gradle here. You have to spell it right, of course, for it to find it. It's not that great of a search. Okay, so some important things you're going to want to do. Make sure you've got this option selected, the Gradle wrapper.properties file, which it was automatically for me. And then this Gradle JVM, I'm going to change that. So in the last video, we installed Java with SDKman. You can see that is down here, and I want to use that Java home version. So I'm going to select that option and say Apply. Okay. And then another thing I know I want to do is add a couple plugins. So let's look for those. Again, I'm going to use the search. So Alpas uses a templating engine called Pebble. So I'm going to search for that because I know that's a helpful plugin. And I'm going to install it. And then there's actually a little bit more configuration we're going to have to do for this Pebble plugin. So I am going to click on this plugin homepage. And we'll look at it later. So we're going to have to restart the IDE to actually get this plugin to get installed. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, great. So now it's installed. That new plugin is installed. And actually, if we go and look at one of the .peb files, which is what's using that Pebble templating engine, I'll show you something in there. So in case you don't know, the best shortcut in the world when you're working with a JetBrains product is Shift. So I'm going to do that right now. And that's going to basically do a great job of searching files and things like that. So I know the file is going to have a .peb extension, so let's look for something that has that. And we've got the welcome.peb. So this is a Pebble file. I'm not actually going to add anything right now, but let me just show you something. So we have this plugin installed, but what's interesting is I'm not getting a ton of help. So I would like the editor to also, close this tag for me and things like that. So that's not working. And it's actually because we installed that Pebble templating engine. And there's one more thing we have to do. So let's go to their website. So this isn't actually that helpful. So I'm going to just go to Google for this. And I'll include this link below too. So I'm going to go to the actual GitHub for the plugin. And they have some instructions. So this is important. To make the editor recognize the two languages in the same file, for instance, HTML and Pebble, which is what we have going on, we're going to need to add information to this template section. So let's go and do that now. Go to Preferences, and it was Language and Frameworks, Template Data Languages. There isn't anything in here right now, so I'm going to add a new one. And this is, you pick what folder it's going to get applied to. So if we go to Source, Main, Resources, Templates. So that's where our Pebble templates are going to be. So this is the folder I want this rule applied to. So I'm going to say Open, and then you get to pick the language, and we want HTML. So again, I'm going to apply and say OK. And now when I'm in this file, if I type H1, it gets closed automatically for me. So now we've got Pebble and HTML working well in the same folder. Okay, so there's another thing I know that I want to go and configure, and that's I want to remap one of the shortcuts in IntelliJ. So let's go to the Alpas documentation and I can show you what I'm talking about. I have that open. Okay, so looking at the Alpas documentation, there's this section about mixing assets. And Alpas has this awesome capability where you can watch for changes. And then Alpas is, in Kotlin, so it does need to be compiled. But IntelliJ makes it a little bit easier. And a lot of times you can just reload the classes rather than having to stop and rerun. So you're going to be doing that all the time. And this code changes section talks about it. And so we're basically looking for a command that's run, reload, change classes. And the shortcut that we've been using most of the time is Command R. So I'm just going to set that now so I don't forget to do it later. So we'll go to Preferences again. This time we're going to go to Key Map. and I'm going to type reload. And that reload change classes is what we want. So I'm going to add a keyboard shortcut, which is to do Command R. And I'm going to say, okay, it's giving me this warning that it's already assigned to something else. And so I'm going to remove those other shortcuts. Okay, so I want to look at our Gradle output and make sure that it loaded successfully. So I'm just going to go ahead, open that menu. It was off here to the side, and refresh this. So right now it's just doing a Gradle build. We'll see if we have any errors. Okay, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and run this. So I also want a terminal. Okay, so I need to compile the assets because there are view classes in here. So I'm going to do a yarn watch. Oh, sorry. I haven't done a yarn install yet on this project, so that's definitely going to be a problem. I don't have any of the things I need. So I'll do a yarn install. All right, now let's do a yarn watch. This is looking a lot better. Okay, so now I also need to actually run my project, so let's do that. So I know that since this was built from the Alpas template, that the class I'm looking for is start. So again, I'm going to do that shift. And we'll look for start. This is the one we want. So you'll see this green play button. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. So this is actually running my application. So I'm going to go to localhost 8080 and we see Alpas. So we just built from IntelliJ and we're running from there, which is great. Now let's try and change something here on this welcome page too to make sure that our new shortcut reload is working. So I'm going to actually stop this. And then I'm going to run in debug, which is the great part about having an IDE is that you can run in debug mode, put in breakpoints, things like that. This welcome.peb file, and we're going to try and reload it and see if that works. So I've got a link here to GitHub, so I'm going to add another link. And I'm going to keep it going to the same place, but I'm just going to put a different link name for right now. We just want to see this reload happen. So I'm going to say this is our Facebook, which Alpas doesn't have a Facebook right now. So, okay, so I'm going to save these changes, and then I'm going to use our reload changed classes. So you can see down here in the corner that something is happening. So now it says loaded classes are up to date. So now if we go back to where we're serving it, let's go ahead and refresh this page. And you can see there's a new link, and we didn't have to stop and rerun the application, which is awesome. And so the reason we're able to do that is a combination of reloading the classes with that new shortcut we added, and also because in the terminal I'm running yarn watch. And that's really it. You should now have IntelliJ configured for developing an Alpas application. Thanks so much for watching. This was Vanessa Gertman from Alpas I'll catch you in the next one.